This is the Brisbane Lions Fancast with Dom Fay and Michael Whiting.
Back for another week and quite possibly the happiest we've been all year, Mike. What an incredible performance against Collingwood. I don't even know where to start with that game.
What a turnaround. We were bemoaning the 100-point loss 7 days ago, and now we're celebrating a 10-goal win. So it's an incredible turnaround. I think it just again shows the fluctuations of having a young group at your disposal, doesn't it? They're up 1 week and down another, but just an amazing performance.
Well, it's exactly what you want to see after a big loss. I mean, obviously you're not going to get that kind of a win away every week after a big loss, but you just want to see some kind of response, and you couldn't have got more of a dramatic one. And I mean, you look all over the field. Zorko was probably his best game for the year, I reckon. Rockcliffe amazing in his 100th. Steph Martin goes to a new level every week almost, it seems.
It's almost a Steph Martin show on here, isn't it?
May as well
every
be.
week.
And, you know, you had all your other contributors too, and Jono Freeman, who will be joining us on the show a bit later on, stood up with 4 goals. Daniel Merritt hit form up forward. There was just so much to like in a game that, well, I'm guessing after the Adelaide game, many people went into pretty sceptical.
Yeah, and from the first bounce, from very early in proceedings, you could see the Lions were on and ready to go. And of course, Collingwood has been well documented. They had a few injuries, but that's to take 0 away from Brisbane because they were on from that very first bounce. And Pierce Hanley said it on Monday. He thought they were going to win regardless of the injuries, and I think you'd be hard-pressed to argue against that because just the run and carry, and they were bold, and that's when we have seen Brisbane play their best the whole year, haven't we, when they've taken the game on and been prepared to run and take it through the corridor, and it was really exciting.
I think we have, at our best, arguably the most entertaining style of game in the whole competition.
Well, it's up there. I mean, we've seen it in small snippets, I suppose. Like we've seen it for a quarter, and it's hard to sustain for a long period. But when they're up and going, it's very exciting because we've got Zorko, we've got Pierce Hanley, we've got Louis Taylor, we've got guys that can. I guess it's exciting to see guys run and bounce, isn't it? And link up with handballs through the middle of the ground and have 4 and 5 handballs and with 3 and 4 blokes running next to each other. It's really exciting. So the best is very, very good, and I guess we're just trying to minimise the gap between the best and the worst. And the defensive aspect has been really good in the last 6 weeks, aside from that aberration against Adelaide a couple of weeks ago. But we saw them get back to their best defensively as well. And I guess, as most coaches will say, the attack or the offense, depending on what part of the world you come from and which word you prefer to use, but that comes from your defence. If you can defend well, you can counter-attack and go from there.
Just can't back up my outlandish comments, can you? My claims that it's the most entertaining to watch. You're like, well, maybe not that. We won't go that far.
Maybe there's a few other teams that might lay claims. That Hawthorn, for example, or maybe even Port Adelaide's best is very good as well. But we haven't seen that much in the last 6 weeks.
Potentially, yeah. I think the point that I'm trying to make, I guess, is just that we are exciting to watch.
Yeah, there's no doubt you're spot on there.
And I guess when you think about, like, Paul Roos is a great coach, obviously. And we spoke about this after the Demons game, and Paul Roos would have done great things at the Lions.
Dom's going back to stick the knife in here, I reckon.
All I'm saying is that we would play remarkably different football if Paul Roos was here right now. And that could be a better thing, could be a worse thing. I'm not sure. What I do know is the footy we're playing at the moment at our best is, if it's sustainable, the kind of footy that's going to get crowds back at the Gabba.
Yeah, it's winning footy too. That's what's going to get crowds back, winning, and the way they're doing it. It's exciting. So, we've got the biggest challenge this weekend, which we'll talk about a bit later, but Fremantle this week. And they just put the clamps on every single part of the ground. So, it's going to be a big challenge to implement the game plan against Fremantle and to have the courage to be able to attack and to take the game on, because a couple of turnovers, and when you're a young fella, I think you tend to probably go back into your shell a little bit. But this will be the ultimate test going up against that lockdown, very suffocating defence of Fremantle. But if confidence is anything to go by, there's no reason why they can't take it right up to the Dockers on Sunday.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I mean, it's a key match partially because of what happened last time we played them and the time probably before that as well.
The time before that. Yeah.
It wasn't like, I think it was last year we set the record for the least amount of inside 50s in a game, and this year broke that own record, something along those lines.
I had a bit of a look. The last three matches, Brisbane's kicked 14 goals in total against Fremantle. So they're obviously a very difficult team to play for anyone. They're one of the best defences in the comp, but we'll get a big challenge this weekend. But I guess you can only go off your most recent match, and that's great form for Brisbane.
Especially being at the Gabba will help us a lot. I think Fremantle have shown that they are at their best at home, undoubtedly. I mean, in saying that they were superb against Geelong at Simmons, but I do think that they are They are a side who has shown a bit of inconsistency this year. Unfortunately for the Lions, it looks like they might be hitting their straps around about now, and that may prove challenging. But Nat Fyfe is going to miss. There's. I don't think there's as much of an opportunity as there was against Collingwood, but we really should be able to put in a respectable effort at the very least.
Yeah, and news just before we recorded this was that Michael Barlow's got a broken thumb, so he won't play as well. So there's a couple of, and I guess Fife's going to the tribunal on Tuesday night to argue his case, and we don't know that before we've recorded this show. But so there's a couple of key players in doubt, but I just wanted to touch back on the Collingwood match, and I guess we've talked about the young guys a lot on this show, and anyone that's talked about the Lions has talked about the young guys and Louis Taylor and how exciting he is and James Aish, but just the big fellas for me. When Jonathan Brown retired, we probably... we celebrated it, but we all sort of held our breath a bit thinking, God, how long is it going to take to find someone? But just it's been... remarkable is a strong word, but just the emergence of the young tall guys so quickly has been a surprise to me. It's surprised you how quickly Gardner, Close, McStay, Jono Freeman, we just got a glimpse of on Saturday night, how quickly those guys have been able to not only show something but contribute.
Yeah, absolutely, to put it bluntly, I think, because we've spent probably the past 5 or 6 years, it seems, trying to find that replacement for Jonathan Brown. I mean, there's been so many people trialled there: Mitch Clark, Bryce Retzlaff, Aaron Cornelius. We've gone through a bit of a roster of people giving them a go. We just haven't been able to find someone who it looks like they could hold down a key forward position for a number of years. And now this year there's been a number of them who've just come out of the woodwork. Now, there is a school of thought that believes that we had to wait for Brown to retire to be able to see this, because we needed them to be able to have a go at being the focal point in attack. And I believe there is a little bit of credibility to that argument, but either way, we're in a situation now where, 3 months ago, if we were, looking at our first pick in the draft, you would have thought there's no way in the world it's going to be anything but a key forward. Now you think, well, there's actually a little bit of you still probably
something
would lean that way, but yeah, there's a bit of glimmer of hope in the key forwards. And I mean, Close had probably his least impressive effort for a while, but he's been really good for a number of weeks. And Jono Freeman, who I think many thought may have been just given a go a bit to see what AFL stand-up was like, stands up and kicks 4 goals on the MCG. So it's definitely enough to get you excited heading into the off-season. Yeah,
exactly. And both ends of the ground. That's, I guess, the exciting part, because we've seen Justin Clark, who's probably had a really slow start to the year, but he's generally, the back half of his year has been very good as well. And Dizzy Gardner, who we've spoken about a bit as well, and Dan McStay we know can play. Well, we've seen him play either end. So, I'm a lot more excited and encouraged than I probably was at the start of the year. We know all these key position players were on the list, and they're going to take time. They're still going to take time. We don't know whether Michael Close can hold down full forward for a long period, or whether Jono Freeman can do the same for a long period. But we've seen probably more glimpses than I would have thought at this stage, to have someone kick 4 goals, or to have Michael Close have multiple games with 12 or 15 touches and sort of 3 or 4 shots at goal, and to see Dizzy Gardner hold down a spot in the defence so comfortably. That was exceeded my expectations enormously, actually. So I guess whatever happens in these last 2 weeks, there's a lot of reason to have some optimism. It's still going to take a couple of years for those guys to fully mature, but very optimistic after what we've seen, particularly in the past sort of 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, and a little bit more excitement not currently in the senior side too. Jackson Payne had a very good reserves outing on the weekend, and also one a bit from left field, who I think, if he hangs around, he could be a very interesting prospect, is Jordan Burke, who a few times I've seen him in the reserves of late. He's very good intercept marker, and I mean, I'm not sure where his contract status is. I do hope he gets at least another year. I hope he gets a senior chance sometime, because I think he could be something to work with as well. And then you look forward to the draft, and there's a number of academy prospects who you'd think would be decent chances in the key position mould. So suddenly, when the cupboard looks so bare, there's a few things popping up, which is a little
bit of
exciting.
Optimism, isn't it? You mentioned Jackson Payne there. He kicked 5, I think it was, in the reserves on the weekend. It was only against Gold Coast, who have got a very weak reserves team, to say the least, but he's kicked 5 goals in the wet, and he'll struggle to get a game in the seniors this week, Jack. But it's to have that pressure being put on from below, well, that's the most you can hope for, and that's what Justin Lepich wants. So good a great finish to the season and 2 top 4 opponents to finish with in Fremantle and Geelong. So brutal finish, but I guess it's a great challenge and a nice way to finish your season, I would have thought.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll be chatting to one of these young key forwards on the Fancast, Jono Freeman, right after this.
The best way to keep track of everything Lions is to head to lions.com.au. It's the first place to find the latest Lions news and videos, get the lowdown on upcoming games, results and player stats. There's also great ways to interact with live chats, downloads and Player of the Year voting updates. And with a social media hub, you can connect with all the Lions social media activity. lions.com.au. Everything Lions, all in one place.
Joining us on the Fancast this week is a player who in his second game on the weekend kicked 4 goals, led all goal scorers on the ground. It is Jono Freeman. Jono, thanks for joining the show.
No problem.
Now, you must be on a high, not just from the team performance, from an individual performance too, after a bit of an indifferent debut. To go out there and kick 4 against Collingwood must have been an amazing experience.
Yeah, you're right. It was pretty amazing. Nothing really went wrong the whole night. It seemed like everything went wrong for Collingwood, but yeah, we had a really successful night, and to play a bit of a part in it was pretty special.
I'm sure most people have heard or read about it by now, but it was the first time you'd been to the MCG. Can you tell us, I guess, just getting to the ground, what that was like initially before you even went onto the field, how you felt, what it was like, and did it live up to your expectations?
Yeah, I guess it was pretty exciting. I'd never really seen it from a distance. I'd only seen it from the cameras on TV, but yeah, it's an amazing stadium, and couldn't believe how big it was, and I was just pretty excited to get out on the turf and have a run around.
And then in the first 5 minutes of the game, you did get your first goal in the AFL. What was that like?
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. It was funny. I probably should have marked it, but it helped that Reed did his hammy, and I was able to take it off the bounce and put it through. And as you'd expect, I was pretty excited to get one on the board and got to celebrate with all my teammates, which was awesome.
And then the rest of the night just got better. We know you took a nice little one-handed there with the left mitt, and another nice overhead mark. Can you take us through the rest of the night and how exciting that was for you?
Oh yeah, it was great to play in a good team effort. And, we went out and did all the things we wanted to do, and I think it really rattled Collingwood. And the whole game we were on top and didn't give them a look the whole time.
Often you'll hear from players that they think they trained really well or poorly in the lead up to a game, and that they have some indication about what performance is coming. I guess what I want to know is, coming off the Adelaide loss, was there any indication that you guys had that kind of a game in you, or did you kind of end up surprising yourselves?
Well, Leffer sort of spoke about the Adelaide game, and it was sort of like a blip in the system, because the previous 4 weeks or so we'd been holding teams to a relatively low score, and we were getting a few wins, and then that came out of nowhere really, and we wanted to make amends for that. And I didn't think we lost any confidence from that game. It was just we wanted to put the game back on our terms and prove that it was just a random event, and we're actually moving forward, and that wasn't another step back.
Not only, obviously, it was your second game of your career, Jono, but it was your second time you got to work with Michael Close and Daniel Merritt and Joshy Green and the rest of the forward line there. How did you find? Are you starting to sort of find your own space? Are you feeling comfortable enough to know when to and where to lead yet, or how much time do you think that'll take?
I'm really enjoying playing with those guys you mentioned in the forward line, and I feel really comfortable down there, and it really helps when they're sort of giving you direction around the field and putting you in the right spots and learning the game each training session and each game. So I'm only getting better at reading the play. And, I'm starting to feel like I really know what's going on and what I have to do to get the ball in my hand.
Brownie said over the weekend, I think it was that he thought you were the most natural forward on the list at the club at the moment. Now, accolades like that and kicking 4 at the G and all these kind of things combined, when a month ago you probably weren't sure if you'd play senior footy this year, what has that done for your confidence heading into an off season and building then for next year? Yeah,
those comments, they give me a great deal of confidence, and really excited for what I can potentially do next year if I put in the hard yards and work my bum off to take my game to another level, and hopefully keep getting opportunities to do that. And yeah, it's been really good having Brownie around the club, and I've learnt heaps from him, and it's pretty special to have the key forward you grew up watching play on the MCG, and then have him as a personal coach. Pretty awesome.
The bloke that you were chasing autographs from, Jono, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Mum's got a photo at home of I was in the paper at the airport trying to chase his signature, and still got it now. It's pretty surreal.
You'll be trying to encourage Jono Brown to stay on at the club then, wouldn't you? I guess all the key forwards have spoken so glowingly about how he's helped them. I guess you'd obviously fall into that category as well and love to see him stick around in a coaching capacity.
Yeah, he's a natural teacher, that's for sure. He's really good at handing on his experience because he's been obviously in the game for a long time, and he knows what to do. It's really valuable what he gives us and what we can put into our game.
Can you give us any indication of the kind of things that he has taught you or that you have learnt from him over your time working with him?
Yeah, well, probably wouldn't have played AFL this year if he hadn't have taught me some things. So I think a lot of it comes down to taking on the responsibility as the dominant player in the forward line and sort of going out there with a really strong mindset. And he talks about, you need to take your opportunities as a key forward because sometimes, it might come down to the last few minutes in a game and you've had a shocker, and then you can quickly make a hero out of yourself and win the game in the last 5 minutes like he did for many times at the Gabba.
Jono, you've only played a couple of games, but you've obviously trained with the team for nearly a year now. When the ball's coming out of the midfield and you look up and are leading, whose hands do you like seeing it in? Who's sort of the better deliverers that you love leading to?
Yeah, it's hard to go past Pierce and Rocky, I have to say. Yeah, your eyes really light up when they come bursting out of the stoppage.
I imagine you probably add Daniel Rich to that list when he returns next year.
Oh, yes, for sure. Yeah.
Now, Johnny, you were the first academy player to play senior footy. There's a few more on the radar to be selected this year. We chatted to you a bit about it when you were selected by the club last year, but if you can just give us an indication as to, with everything that Eddie Maguire's been saying about the academy, with what the academy's done for you to get you where you are today?
Yeah, the academy's done heaps. I probably wouldn't be on an AFL list if it wasn't for them. So I think it's a really good program. You definitely should stay around, and it's only going to get bigger and better with the game growing up in the northern states. And I think that the system will help fast track a lot of development so that there's more Queenslanders, not only in the northern state clubs, but drafted to around Australia.
Mate, before we let you go, just this weekend, obviously you've got Fremantle, probably one of the toughest challenges in the league. How do you look at them? And I guess you'll have to sort of take the most of your opportunities against them because they're so defensive and don't give you a lot of looks, do they?
Yeah, it's going to be a tough game. Obviously, they're in some pretty good form at the moment, knocking off the Hawks on the weekend. So yeah, it will be tough. Hopefully, we can continue our good form and limit their score so that when we do get our opportunities, we can make them count and we won't have to create as many as if we're restricting their score. So it's going to be a tough challenge, but I think it's a good test for us to see where we are at in terms of our defensive stuff as well, and also the offensive parts of our game we've been working on in the past few weeks.
And just quickly, Jono, the number 16 jumper is available now. Any chance we could see another Jonathan running around in it next season?
Oh, well, yeah, that's not up to me. You have to ask Brownie about that one, but yeah, we'll see.
Would you be up for it?
Oh, yeah, definitely. If he wanted me to, I'd take it for
sure. Well, that's out there now, Jono. We'll see what he says. Thanks very much for joining us today, John, and all the best for the rest of the season.
No worries. Thanks for having me, guys.
The Lions reserve season wraps up this weekend in the game against UWS Giants. It's Saturday afternoon, 1 p.m. at Spotless Stadium down in Sydney. Then the seniors take the field at the Gabba against Fremantle Sunday afternoon. That's another 1:10 game, which is a bit interesting considering the comments from Brenton Sanderson a few weeks ago that there's another, obviously the scheduling was decided long ago, but that there's another 1:10 Sunday game getting closer to the warmer part of the year in Brisbane.
I reckon whatever happens, Dom, you won't hear Ross Lyon whinging about the heat.
Wouldn't have thought so. It's an interesting match, Mike, simply because I'd say a lot of people probably don't know how to pick it. I mean, I would say there's probably going to be people who wouldn't be shocked if we match it with them a lot of the way. But also, you'd really struggle to be surprised if it turned into a really dour match where we get very few inside 50s and end up with another 90 to 30 scoreline, which I think we chatted earlier in the year. That's the Freo scoreline. Around about 90 to 30. It's kind of how it goes.
They just have strangled Brisbane the last 3 times. So, I mean, you're going out on a bit of a limb to say that Brisbane can not only match them, but sneak away for a victory. But no Barlow, possibly no Fife. Huge omissions from that big, strong, tall midfield that they've got. And we've seen Brisbane's best. I mean, if Brisbane are bold enough to continue to try and run and gun and take the game on, well, they might create some headaches for Fremantle. But it's just hard to see. Fremantle's played so well the last 2 weeks. They were within a kick of beating Geelong. They've beaten Hawthorn. Is there a chance they might be a bit flat after those couple of weeks? Not sure, but I think they seem to be timing their run for the finals pretty well. So I don't imagine they'll be taking their foot off the accelerator over here because they've still got a top 4 spot to play for. So, I'd like to think that Brisbane can match them for a lot of the day, but just hard to see them actually getting over the line.
I took one for the team and went back and watched a bit of that game earlier in the year against Fremantle. Wasn't pleasant, but I watched a bit of it, and I think the point
Dom is a real fan. I don't even think the teams watch that again.
Probably not. But the reason I did it is because I think the point you make there is very good in that it will all come down to us taking the game on. It looked like in that game over at Patterson's, like there were some nerves, a bit of uncertainty, almost like Freo had beaten them before they'd even taken the field. And so I think it's going to be important that if the Lions have the confidence, and really they should have all the confidence in the world at the moment, if they have the confidence, then they might break Freo open. You never know. But if they go out there and they're a bit jittery and a bit slow, then you know what kind of game's going to evolve and you're not going to love it. So the one point of interest for me for this game is it is the last Gabba game for the year. Last Gabba game we had thrashed by 105 points. It is kind of important in a sense that this isn't a thrashing. Now, I know the players don't go out there and say, all right, guys, this is all about
minimising the damage.
Yeah, exactly. But it wouldn't look great after a great season to have 2 heavy losses at the Gabba to finish the year.
No, you want to finish off strongly in front of your home fans. I was thinking earlier this week that how great have the Lions been in Melbourne. I think they've won their last 3 matches in Melbourne. So it's been great for the Fitzroy and the Lions supporters down in Melbourne to see the boys go so well in front of them. And generally the second half of the year, the boys have been quite good at the Gabba. But yeah, that last match against the Crows, I think we can put that down as an aberration, and I guess we'll see this weekend. The thing I cannot wait to watch Pierce Hanley versus Ryan Crowley. Just can't wait to see that. So Pierce is killing it at the moment, and he is really he set himself for this one. He said on Monday that he can't wait to make amends for his poor showing at Patterson's a couple of months ago. So can't wait to watch Crowley try and niggle and Pierce try and run him off his legs. Yeah,
I think Martin versus Sandilands will also be a very big point of interest, and the main point of interest for me will probably be seeing if we're able to keep that run through the middle, that speed, that dare to take the game on against the best defensive side in the comp. It's going to be an interesting one.
What's your call, Dom?
You're going to be shocked, Mike. Lions by 12.
Jeez.
I know. I've just said everything to set up like I think we're going to lose, but the thing is that I saw something in us on the weekend that made me think this is the game style that could beat Freo.
I love Dom's optimism. I do. I do because he's right half the time and I'm not. So
it's genuinely. It was just the fact that the ability, the confidence to take the game on. I thought this pace, this is what will or what could open Freo up. There's not much that could do it, but this is potentially what could do it. So that's why I'm backing us in. It is a bit of a wild call, but I think we could maybe pull it off.
It is. I hope you're right. It'll be a spectacular victory if they can pull it off. So I'm really looking forward to a couple of those matchups we've talked about. I think Freo will get the job done, but it's an intriguing matchup regardless.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be back next week to preview the final game of the year. Until then, this is the Fancast. See ya.
Bye.